what can people expect from you to bring to the team from day one?
Heart. I love the game. I love the game of football, and I respect it. And when you respect something, when you respect the game, you do everything you can for the game. And I feel like that's who I am.
What's going on today? I'm the host, SchuZ Schumaker. And joining me today is one-time PFF All-MAC First Team selection, one-time All-MAC Second Team selection, and one-time All-MAC Third Team selection. He's also a 2021 Quick Lane Bowl champion. He's also projected to be drafted in this year's 2022 NFL Draft. Kaleb Eleby, appreciate you coming on today, man.
Man, thank you. Thank you, man. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely, man. Well, you obviously are declared now. You're preparing for the combine. But why do you feel like this is the year that you're ready for the NFL Draft? Why do you feel like this is the time to make that jump?
That's definitely, it comes a time where it's time to make a tough decision. And, I just felt like now was the time, simple as that.
Well, you obviously have had a journey that's not been necessarily easy to get to this point, a lot of ups and downs. And that's what I want to get into today for you, because a lot of people know you today as someone that just became a college star last year, had an incredible final year of college, now going to the NFL Draft, expects to be drafted. But to kind of get people some background information, to hear about how you got to this point, we had all the way back. You're originally from St. Louis. Take us through that a little bit. Like, what was it like growing up out there in St. Louis, Missouri?
Growing up in St. Louis, Missouri, man, is no place like home, in a lack of better words. There's no place like St. Louis. Just being around family and loved ones, and with the city of St. Louis, you learn a lot of different life lessons as far as being able to have valuable friends, and the importance of staying disciplined, the importance of time management. As any place is very well easy to get distracted, and growing up in St. Louis, there are distractions everywhere, and to be able to stay focused and keep the main thing. The main thing is very important. And I would have to say, I learned that at an early age.
And like you said, that's a huge aspect for anyone in life. But obviously growing up in St. Louis, like there's a lot of things that another distraction that can come to you from being out there. There's a lot of different directions and paths that guys can go. What kept you focused in on your dream? What kept you focused on saying, yes, I could go this way. I could go this way. It might even be the easier ways for me. I want to stay locked in on this dream. I'm going to stay focused on what God's got in store for me.
I would have to say, just being the oldest sibling. I'm the oldest of five. I have four younger brothers, all boys. Just wanting to be a role model for them, and, show them the way things should be done, and being proud of being able to graduate high school early, to be able to live out a lifelong dream of playing Division I, and now, entering the 2022 NFL Draft. Just really showcase and display what hard work looks like.
Growing up out there in St. Louis, obviously there's a lot of different adversity that can come with you as well, but there's a certain mentality I feel like guys that come from there have to be able to kind of make it out of there the way you did successfully. And it comes with different places across the country and world too. But what mentality comes with growing up out there? Is there a certain type of edge, maybe a mentality per se, that comes with growing up out there in St. Louis?
Definitely. It's either go big or go home, and as you never want to be stuck in one place for too long, and always being able to achieve, and always trying to, go get what's next. Really kind of like you say, that go getter mentality is definitely needed. That's just the best way I can put it, man. I was very blessed and fortunate to grow up the way that I did. I grew up with a lot of love and support. A lot of family, friends, and loved ones and coaches who have helped me along throughout this journey, and I'm just grateful for it all.
You mentioned being a big brother to four other siblings. What was that like? It had to be kind of crazy in a sense of just having all these younger brothers looking up to you, looking over them. But at the same time, I'm sure you guys have had different games of playing catch or playing one maybe in basketball or some kind of games of playing competitive with them. So what was it like growing up with them?
Um, it like I say, man, it was definitely a noisy house growing up. All boys, man. Just everybody wants to be the best kind of thing. Competition is always going from the oldest to the youngest, and just kind of having that competitive edge, I feel like is very important. I feel like that's something that I was blessed, and we all were blessed with as LB boys is to be able to love to compete. I really feel like that makes a difference, and kind of like you say, that go getter mentality.
When you look at all your brothers growing up, like you're the oldest one, you've obviously made it just like any kid's dream is to make it to college, play at the NFL level. Are they also all playing football or do they play other sports? Are they also trying to follow in your footsteps too, in a way?
Yeah, I mean, they're very well aware in their own path. They all play different sports: basketball, baseball, football. My mom does a really good job of, raising us and, teaching us life lessons along the way and being able for us to participate in sports and, just seeing all the sacrifices and things that she made in order for us to live out the dreams that we wanted to live. Nothing is comparable, and it's something like as I mentioned before, something I'm very just blessed and grateful for.
When you look at all of them, we're going to talk about your records and everything you said in high school and so forth in a little bit, but do you think any of them have a shot at breaking your type of high school records? Like, are any of them going to be so focused in at quarterback where you think your records could possibly no longer be your record anymore in the future?
I mean, that's kind of what you hope for. The records are meant to be set so that they can be broken.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, if anybody is going to bring my records, I definitely want it to be one of my little brothers. That means that I'm doing what I'm supposed to, as far as teaching them what I know, and then they're taking what they know and creating it to however they display. And I feel like that's very important.
You look back at all the memories you guys have created so far. What's the first memory or even your favorite memory that comes to mind with them?
Um, I would just have to say, man, being at home in the backyard just playing catch. It's real simple, but man, you look back and think like, I'm glad to have my brothers. I'm glad to be able to do this. Like I say, as competitive as the household is, those moments are still very crucial and very important. And you know, that's what family is all about.
If you could give them one thing of advice, or maybe even yourself, if you now look at everything you've achieved to this point in time, what would be your biggest thing of advice, your biggest line, maybe whatever it is? Like, what's the biggest thing you could tell them that could help them, or even yourself if you're younger, going forward from here on out?
Keep the main thing. It's as simple as that. As we mentioned before, distractions are everywhere, everywhere. And when you pretty level headed and laser eye focus on what you wanna achieve, good things will happen.
We know that you, as a football player today, has that always been your dream? Like, were you born with football in your hands? Was that always a go-to sport for you, or did that come later on in life for you?
I think you said the best, man. I was born with a football in my hand. Um, I like to say I came out of the womb holding the ball, but it's always been a dream of mine to be able to have an opportunity
Mm.
to enter the NFL draft. Um, one is that I don't take lightly. I don't take lightly, and it's been a lot of hard work, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and there's plenty more to go. You know, you got to fall in love with the process. You have to, and I feel like that's something that I love to do. I love getting better.
I know you also played basketball, track and field a little bit throughout high school too, but I know so many kids grow up with the dream, obviously, when you're 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever, saying, okay, I want to play in the NBA or the NFL or whatever it is. When do you feel like that started coming to fruition for you and started feeling like, this isn't just a dream. Like it's still a dream. Of course, I want to make it to that point, but this is something that I feel like I legitimately have a shot at now. Like I know I can be in the NFL someday.
Um, I would just have to say high school. High school is when I have to say I really want to do this. I really want to make this a dream. But I understood what needed to be done.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of sacrifice, the amount of hard work, the amount of discipline, the amount of attention to detail, the amount of hardships all along the way. And the crazy part about it is I'm just getting started.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm aware of that. I'm very well aware of that. And it's something that, I'm willing to take head on.
I feel like for so many people that want to be professional athletes, those are sometimes the hardest things. Like there's so many people out there that have the skill per se to play at the professional level, but that mentality is one of the most important things. Being able to go through adversity, being able to go through an injury per se, or going through it when you get to the next level, possibly being cut or a trade or whatever it is. How do you keep your mindset positive and at the same time too staying confident in your craft whenever any obstacle comes your way?
I think number one is faith.
Mm-hmm.
I think number one is faith. Simple as that. Adversity. It's one thing that's guaranteed in the game of football, and that's adversity. And being able to adapt, being able to understand and have a plan of action on how to attack adversity is what's key, in my opinion. And it's not easy. And honestly, you can't do it by yourself. That's why it's important to have good people in your corner.
Mm-hmm. Was faith always in your life? I know some people might even grow up in a Christian household, but when did you feel like you started that personal bond with God? Was it just from day one, like kind of was there? Did it start over time? Or when did you really start forming that personal one-on-one connection with God?
Man, I would have to say when I was a young kid, man.
Hmm.
You know, I it was situation and things that I used to pray for that end up happening and that are still are. And I'm very grateful for that. And I've always believed.
We head into that high school career. You decided to go to Pattonville High. Was that just the local high school for you? You just kind of went there, just happened to be there, and you went and attended that school, or what led you to go to Pattonville High?
I would have to say my family, my family all went to Pattonville years ahead, my aunties and uncles. So, that's kind of where home was and ended up going to Pattonville and, I ended up having a pretty good time in Pattonville. I learned a lot of things. I met a lot of people, uh, had a lot of great memories, a lot of fun games and records and all that. But I'm just glad that everything worked out how it did.
You mentioned obviously that you wanted to always play at the NFL level. It was always a dream for you. We know now that you set all these records, you had a great career, but heading in there as a freshman, did you expect to play and have the type of record setting career that you ended up having in high school?
I would have to say I did
Mm-hmm.
off the fact of the matter. I set goals going into my high school career, and Lord willing, I was able to achieve them.
Mm-hmm. Did you win that spot over from day one? Obviously, we knew who you were and who you become, but was that a battle for you in the beginning, or how did you end up establishing yourself as the go-to quarterback for that school?
Well, no spot is guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what you did last week, last year, you have to get better every day, which is why the motto that you asked me about is keep the main thing,
Mm-hmm.
And with that, at that point in time, starting or not starting, the main thing of it was improving every day, becoming a better teammate, a better player, a better student, a better friend. Like those was the main things, and to play football while doing it.
Mm-hmm. that balance is critical for anyone in any walk of life, whether you're in athletics, you're in art, you're in any avenue of life, is finding that balance between your work and other life too. And obviously, we've already talked about faith and family and all that, but was that easy for you? Did that always naturally come when you knew the balance, or how did you learn to kind of balance both your athletics life from your personal life?
As I mentioned before, it's important to have great people in your corner.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I lean on my family a lot, especially my mom. She's great and she's tough. You know, she gets it done, man. And obviously, great friends, family members, coaches. Really people that are important to you and really can help you be the person that you want to become.
You already mentioned a lot about your mom, so I want you to go a little bit deeper in her. Like, just got to take us through how special she is, how much she's helped get you to the point that you're at today.
Well, to the Eleby boys, she's a mom and a coach. She's very dedicated, man. And just raising 5 boys it speaks value.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, there were times where she had us in the backyard trying to have us run drills and, you know, really putting us through like she was a coach. And, I really appreciated and valued that, because A, she taught us life lessons about hard work. B, she taught us about discipline and the importance of being able to be consistent and separate yourself from the crowd and just all the little different, you know, life lessons that were taught throughout those times. When you look back and think on it, you're very grateful for.
When that day does come in a few months, and obviously a lot of people expect that your name will be called in that draft, but whatever ends up happening that night, though, but when that time does come and you end up signing that contract with an NFL team, what do you think is going to go through her mind?
It's definitely going to be a surreal moment. I can't wait, and Lord willing, that it happens just like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, at that point, I think it'll be a moment of proudness, but a quick switch as to let's get to work. And I love that.
Mm-hmm. We go back into that high school career a little bit. At what point did you kind of settle into that role and you started art? You kind of knew, obviously, okay, yes, there's a battle going on, but I truly am that guy now. Like, I'm going to be the quarterback. I feel comfortable. Like, this is my spot. I'm going to lead this team going forward. At what point was that in your high school career?
I would have to say when I stepped on the field.
Mm.
That was my mentality. That's how I thought when I was on the field. And I took it one game at a time, one practice at a time. I really tried to live my life that way. I really did, because at any given point, it can be taken away.
Mm-hmm. You've always mentioned that the NFL dream was there, which obviously means you want to go to college and whatnot too throughout that process. You end up leaving with a lot of offers on the table, interest as well. When did the college dream become a reality for you? When did that start happening? You said, I'm playing Division I now, and now it started coming into you. Like, when did that all happen? At what point in your high school career did that happen?
I would have to say when I got my first scholarship offer, which was
Mm-hmm.
Iowa State University. It was just a moment that I will never forget. Being able to have that experience to be able to say, "Hey, Mom, I just received a full ride scholarship." You
Mm-hmm.
know, um, words can't describe it. Words can't describe it.
There is something that happens when a lot of guys get offers. Some guys turn up a little bit more and say, I got one, but I want way more than one. Now I want to get two, I want three, I want four, etc. Some guys do stay complacent and say, okay, I'm a Division I athlete now. I'm locked in, even though obviously everyone ends up finding out that it's not necessarily locked in just because you get an offer. But how did you react when that first happened? And what was your mentality going forward after the Iowa State offer?
Um, the Iowa State offer was just a small signal
Mm-hmm.
that I needed to keep going. That moment to be able to say that was priceless. But
Mm-hmm.
just imagine if I had the opportunity to be able to say it again and again and again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I always wanted.
We go a little bit forward now in your high school career. We'll get into recruiting in a second too, but you end up going to that senior season and you have a spectacular season. You get Class 5 Missouri Player of the Year. You get first team All State. You lead your team to the state championship. What was that senior year like for you?
I would have to say it was a blessing, man. I learned a lot throughout that time. Um, just being able to experience that with my team was crazy, man.
Mm-hmm.
The importance of understanding team bonding and the importance of it takes everybody in order to be successful. You know, like the accolades was cool, but when I think back to my senior season, all I could think about was just the victories that we had in the state championship game. And
Mm-hmm.
even though we fell a little short in the state championship game with 20, 30 seconds left, it's a memory I'll never forget.
Yep. We already mentioned too that you broke all these records. You're the school all-time leading passing guy. Your touchdown, your completion percentage, every passing record is in your name. What does that mean to you?
It's an honor.
Mm-hmm.
It's an honor. Um, to be able to, it's just a reminder that hard work pays off, which is why I say I need to continue to keep trying to work hard. And you'll be surprised what happens with hard work, man. You really would. And I'm excited to see where I can end up, what's in my future.
You look back at all the things you've accomplished and you did in moments throughout your high school career. What was your favorite memory?
Ooh, favorite memory, man. My last ever play of high school was a touchdown pass.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why that's my favorite play is because I like to think that I left it all out on the field.
Mm-hmm.
As I mentioned, we lost the game in the last couple of seconds. But I walked away from that game knowing that I left it all out on the field.
Would you say that your overall high school career was a success? Did you accomplish everything you wanted to? Did you achieve what you wanted to? Obviously, you had Division One and whatnot, but was that a successful high school career in your opinion?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes, it was. I grew as a person. I came into high school as a 14-year-old boy, and I left out of high school a 17-year-old young man.
Mm-hmm.
And throughout all the lessons learned and the memories made, I wouldn't be who I am today without Pattonville High School.
We already talked about your recruiting a little bit, but to go a little bit deeper into that, you had offers like Iowa State on the table. Illinois was there, Illinois State, Toledo. We know obviously we ended up going to Western Michigan. Walk us through the recruiting process. Who was in the serious running for you? We know Western Michigan wins you over, but who did it ultimately come down to for you besides Western Michigan?
I would have to say um, Illinois, University of Illinois. It came down to University of Illinois and Western Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just felt more comfortable at Western Michigan. Simple as that.
That is a mentality that not too many recruits have because you obviously look at both the names. One name is obviously known a lot more around the world. You're playing the Big Ten, it's a big time conference. So many recruits in any sport would say, oh, I want to go to the big name school. I want to go play at a school like Illinois. I want my name in the Big Ten. What allowed you to say, yeah, that name would be cool. Yeah, it'd be a fun atmosphere or whatnot, but I want to create my legacy at Western Michigan because that's the best fit for me.
As I mentioned, it was just somewhere that I felt comfortable. You learn a lot throughout that recruiting process. You learn a lot. And sometimes bigger is not always better. I still was able to achieve dreams as far as being able to play at those powerhouse schools and things of that nature. So, I'm just grateful that I was able to play Division I football at the highest level and to have fun while doing it.
Mm-hmm. So many recruits do make the mistake then they do go to the big school and the transfer portal stuff now has helped out with guys transfer now and to go find the right fit eventually. But What's your advice to recruit if they're going through it? And obviously, the big name schools could be the best fit for them too. Obviously, that's worked for countless guys too. But what's your advice to recruit? How do they evaluate what the best option, best route is for them?
I would have to say trust your gut, you know, and don't follow a logo, kind of what you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I think that that's very important. And I think that, you know, the way things happen and how they did for me really allowed me to be able to believe that and be able to give that word of advice back.
Let's go into that career at Western Michigan because we know what you ended up achieving, but it wasn't just from day one, you're the guy, you're going to take over. And as you mentioned, it's never that. So we head into your freshman season. You do get some appearances in that season, but it's due to an injury and all that we'll get into in a second. What was your thoughts of heading into freshman year? Did you expect to be a starter? I can imagine those your hopes, your dreams, and whatnot, but just take us to the training camp heading into your freshman year.
Um, so going into my freshman year, like kind of like any freshman, you know, all I wanted to do was get on the field and play.
Mm-hmm.
I learned a lot throughout that time. And Lord willing, you know, unfortunately, you know, the starter Jon Wassink ended up going down due to an injury. Um, but I learned a lot throughout that time. I had to learn to be ready. I had to learn how to contribute from the sidelines. Um, I had to learn how to be happy for someone else. Those are all important life lessons, man, that, you know, without going through that experience, I wouldn't have known.
Was that easy for you? Because so many guys, I feel like even today, guys will say, I didn't play a lot my freshman year. It wasn't what coach maybe promised to me, saying I'm going to go out there and start, and they might transfer out or whatnot. Was that easy for you to sit back? And like I said, you do get some games in there too, but was that easy for you to be able to sit back and, like you said, embrace another guy, hope that he does good, root for him? Was that easy for you, or did that take some time to adjust?
Uh, it was easy for me to be able to you know cheer for him. You know, he's my teammate, things
Yeah.
like that. You know, but it was hard to be able to contribute from the sidelines. It wasn't. It was different. It was different. I wouldn't say it was too hard. It was just different. You go from high school being a 4-year starter to, you know, now being on the sidelines. But I understood why I was on the sidelines. It wasn't my turn yet. I had to learn patience. I had to learn the value of being able to execute an offense. I had to learn the value of how to really lead a team.
Mm-hmm.
And the one common thing in every great leader is a great leader knows when to follow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What was the biggest thing you learned in that freshman year?
Keep the main thing the main thing. Seriously. You
Mm-hmm.
know, when you put things into that perspective, it clears a lot of things up for you.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, like you said, you don't want anyone to get hurt. That's never your dream as your teammate. But in any sport, any way of life, there's certain scenarios and things that do happen that give someone an opportunity to do something. And that was what happened to you that year. You end up getting a couple of games. I think it was five. I'm not exactly sure. I know it was right around 5 games that year.
Yeah.
And you show glimpses of what we end up seeing in the final 2 years of your career, where you go out there 4 touchdowns. There's 3 picks, but you still threw at 62%. You rushed for 3 touchdowns. You guys did overall pretty solid. You threw for over 1,000 yards in that span. What was that like when you had to get thrown in there and say, okay, it's your turn, you're up now? How did you adjust and just what was it like playing in those games?
I feel like I leaned a lot on my teammates during that time. You know, I was a young buck,
Mm-hmm.
still a young buck. But being able, like as I mentioned, you know, being able to learn how to follow was very important. You know, being a freshman during that time, getting in the season, you've only been around the guys a couple months. You know, and the guy's been on the team for a couple years.
Mm-hmm.
So understanding the culture and what it takes to be able to lead on, it showed the importance and the value of leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And without those moments, I don't think I would be who I am today.
It's not the case for all players, but was there someone that in a sense, took you under the wing, someone that mentored you, helped you along the way? And if so, how big was that person in your life throughout your college career?
Yeah, I would have to say Jon Wassink. So he was the starting quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Great dude. He really kind of paved the way. He laid the ropes out on how to be successful. Obviously, he was a successful quarterback. Um, and I listened and I followed. And, just being able to take the lessons and things that John did well and trying to be able and implement them into my game however they best see fit was something that's definitely important.
That sophomore season had to also be pretty hard for you because, as we mentioned, your first year, you didn't get to play much. You did get an opportunity to get some 5 games in there, but the next year you don't get to play. You have to end up redshirting that season. How did you adjust to that? Was that something that you're okay with? Did you even have a say in saying, you know what, this might be best for me? Or how did you take that year in?
It was hard at first, just being able to go from playing to not playing. But looking back, it was the right decision.
Mm-hmm.
Looking back, it was the right decision. Uh, at the end of the day, it was what's best for my future at the time. And that's part of maturity. That's part of growing. That's part of learning. Sometimes you don't see what others may see that can benefit you in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
But the good thing is I trusted the process.
If you had to go out there and you played that sophomore season, like you were a starting quarterback, let's say that year, would you say that you're the player you are today, or did that redshirt year help make you the player that we saw then in your redshirt sophomore season and your redshirt junior season?
I would definitely say it helped because it allowed me to be able to focus on attention to detail, not only from a playing experience the year prior, but to see the game from two different angles.
Yep. What was the biggest thing you gained as a player in terms of your on the field skill set? What was the biggest thing you gained in that redshirt season?
Understanding the speed of the game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that red shirt season, every play as I'm watching, I would kind of have like a game simulation playing in my head as to what I would have done.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that really helped.
Well, let's get into that time that's officially the Kaleb Eleby show when we know what you do end up doing your final 2 years of college football. But the first thing I got to get into is that you had some nice weapons out there too to throw to. Your very first year, Dwayne Eskridge, who's now in the NFL. We'll also talk about Skyy in a second too. But for starters, Dwayne, what was that playing like with him, and how did you guys get that connection going right out the gate?
He's a workhorse. He's a workhorse, and I think that's one thing that we definitely have in common is being workhorses. And we spent a lot of time together in the off season. Really building that chemistry and getting around each other and like I say, really building that chemistry. Hanging out outside of football really does pay dividends on the field as well. And I think, me and Esco, calling my boy Esco, I think me and Esco kind of showed that.
Who did you click quicker with? Was it you and Skyy or you and Dwayne? Like who? Which one of those two guys did you feel like you just clicked right away with?
I would have to say I clicked with them both.
Mm-hmm.
My job is to put the ball where it needs to be,
Yep.
and that's what I try to focus on, and let them do the rest. They both are great players. Um, but as far as them, my job is just put the ball where it needs to go.
Going a little bit deeper into each one individually, then what's some of the similarities and differences? They're both NFL guys. Obviously, this guy's gonna get drafted this year, and he's gonna start his career too. But what's the similarities and differences between the two of them?
The similarities I have to say is just the being able to want to get better each day. One thing that when you look at great players that they usually have in common is the will and want to get better each and every day, which is why I strive to get better each and every day.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems simple, but it really is really the difference between good players and great players.
Mm-hmm. if you ended up having to get the opportunity to go and play with one of the two of them, or maybe all you guys get reunited at the NFL, who knows what happens? But if you just got to go play with any of them or any combo of you three together, possibly at the NFL level, what would that be like?
Oh man, history in the making. Being able to be college teammates and then to be able to grind it out together and end up being where ultimately everybody wants to be. That's a big that's a big moment. That's a special moment.
Let's get into your breakout season, your very first year of being the guy on the team, being that quarterback. How excited were you for that? I have to imagine you basically have sat now practically for 2 years in a sense. How excited were you just to be able to get out there and start playing?
That was all I wanted to do
Mm-hmm.
was get out and go play. And those 2 years, I learned the importance of playing the quarterback position. I learned the importance of becoming a leader, and I learned the importance of the game of football to me.
Mm-hmm.
It forced me to work harder to be able to ensure that I step on the field, and even harder to ensure that I stayed on the field.
Mm-hmm. That wasn't the easiest year for you in terms of a very first year being the starting quarterback because COVID comes in and it affects everybody, obviously. But how did you adjust to that? Because you guys only get so many games that year. You guys go 4-2, but how did you adjust to the COVID season and how did you handle that year?
The COVID year, man, it was a blessing in disguise.
Mm-hmm.
It allowed for some time at home with my loved ones, and it allowed for my teammates and I to bond. It might seem a little ironic, but just simple, quick phone calls as far as, "Hey, man, checking in, how you doing?" goes a long way. And that was the focus of was making sure that everybody was still together and still keeping this common goal as far as reaching a championship. It ended up bringing us closer together.
You have a pretty great year, especially for only saying you only get 4-2 record. You only end up playing 6 games that year. How would you say that year went for you? Like, was it as successful as it possibly could be? Like, COVID obviously shut it down from reaching its full potential, but were you as successful as you wanted to be for what you were able to have?
Um, the goal is always to get a championship. I think we had a pretty good year. That was a fun year to say the least. A lot of different things going on, even COVID, man. Like, as you know, things haven't been the same since. And, being able to adapt, as I mentioned before, is very important. And, I think that 2020 we adapted to a lot of different things, and it showed the versatility and the importance and diligence of continuing to strive to be better each and every day.
COVID season then comes to a close, and COVID still obviously had its role and impact on this past year, but overall, the protocols I know lessened up quite a bit. It was back to a more normal year. I mean, you guys had a pretty much full season, 8-5 record, great overall year for you guys. How excited were you heading into this final year?
Um, it was, man, just to have fans back in the stands was something different within its own, to get that adrenaline, get that rush, get that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you live for, man. Third down, the place is rocking. You got to make ID calls and change the protection and all this and all that. Mind you, the play clock's running down, and those are the moments that you live for. And to be able to, like I said, have the fans back and just be back on the field again, man, it was words can't describe it.
What were your goals for the year when you were walking into it? Like you said, every year you pretty much have had goals you went out there and achieved for yourself. What did you want to achieve this past season?
I wanted to win the championship.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, it wasn't the MAC championship, but we are Quick Lane Bowl champs.
Yep.
Something that is very, very special. Second one in school history, man. I mean, that's history. Um, I wanted to be able to compete against top teams, you know. and just be better than I was last year, better than we were last year.
Mm-hmm. When you look at this entire year, what was your favorite memory that you created?
The quick lane ball. Last game of the season, to be able to end that on top that's how you want to go out.
Let's go a little bit deeper in that because, as you mentioned, that's ultimately you want to win the championship overall, but still, like that bowl is always another goal everyone has. Like you want to come away with a bowl game, you want your final game of the season to be a championship, a win. What was that like? Just knowing that you guys got into the Quick Lane Bowl and going into that matchup, just walk us through the entire game and just how excited you guys were to get out there and playing that bowl game.
I mean, I think the game was a little bit more special. That was my first time actually ever playing in a dome. We ended up playing in the NFL stadium. So, I mean, that right there, that's all the adrenaline and rush and what you need to get you going. I just was really soaking it all in, man. Just thankful to be there. I had a great time, a lot of memories, a lot of laughs, a lot of smiles, tears of joy. Like you name it, it was there.
You look back at your 4-year career and everything from redshirting, only playing 5 games, to taking over in a COVID year, to your full season, your final year. How did you grow the most throughout the 4 years that you were out there?
I would have to say just being grateful. It's a being grateful is something that a lot of times is overlooked, but yet so important to who you are and the people around you.
Your head coach, I have to imagine that you guys created a great bond throughout your career there, Coach Lester. Go a little bit deeper into that. How did you see your relationship grow from the time that he was recruiting you in high school to today as you've now left him and got to the ultimate goal that you always set for yourself?
Coach Lester was great, man. Him being a former quarterback himself, being able to talk quarterback lingo with your head coach is pretty cool. Obviously he's had a lot of success and one of the greats to ever come through Western Michigan. I mean, it was great, man. It was great just to be able to communicate with your coach.
I'm sure you guys have talked about it before. You obviously have now gone down as one of the more talented players in school history too. He obviously is in that category too. Which one of you two would you say is the best one?
Obviously, he's going to say him, and I think I'm going to say me. That's how it's supposed to be. But I learned a lot from Coach Lester, man. I learned a lot of things that I'm grateful for. A lot of things that I have implemented into my game, and he has definitely taught me over the years. And I'm just grateful to have crossed paths and be coached by himself and Coach Evans.
So what's the favorite memory you've created with Coach Lester then? If everything you guys have gone through, what's the one memory that comes to mind first with him?
The hug after the bowl game. The hug after the bowl game. It was a moment, man, as far as my quarterback head coach. That's a moment that means a lot.
Well, let's go through this decision now that's got you to this point today. You end up that bowl, you're a champion, and there's obviously an option for you. You still technically have 2 years of eligibility available for you to go to college. On the other hand, the decision you choose now is obviously go pro. We know you have a good chance of being drafted this year too. So how did you weigh those options, and what led you to ultimately come down to the decision to say, right now I want to go play in the NFL?
I would have to say it is sometimes you just get a feeling, man. And I felt like the time was right.
When you and Skyy were talking, he obviously declared now as well. Did that have any factor in that, like knowing that, okay, we could both go out here together, I want to play with you, or possibly did you guys even say, if you come back, I might come back for another year?
Yeah, I mean, that quarterback receiver duo is definitely important. But I think Skyy made the decision that was best for him, and I'm fully supportive, and we just so happen to end up making the same decision.
Well, you now are working out, you're preparing for the combine. What is the biggest thing you're keying on right now? Is there something that you're trying to get improved on or you're working the most at to get ready for that combine?
I'm trying to improve me overall, everything. You know, I'm trying to get smarter. I'm trying to get faster. I'm trying to get bigger. I'm trying to get stronger. Uh, you know, it goes back to that improving daily thing in all areas.
When you look at the opportunity to play in the combine and you just overall look at all the guys you're competing against, there's obviously a handful of the quarterbacks that you're right there in the mix with. A lot of people say you're almost in a way a mystery quarterback. So many people say, we know you have the skill set, the potential of being an NFL quarterback. We just want to see it now at the next level. We want to see it through our other players. How do you view yourself when you are heading into this? Where do you kind of view yourself amongst all the other players, but especially all the other quarterbacks?
You know, you just got to go out there and perform. You know, I'm always going to will. I'm always going to bet on myself. Um, you know, through hard work and preparation and things of that nature, anything is possible. Um, I believe in myself. I'm comfortable with myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just like to go out and play ball, man.
If a GM came in and asked you, I'm sure they actually probably will ask you in the next couple of months, but you being the quarterback, that's one of the more important selections, one of the most valuable selections a team can make. Why should a GM and a coach feel comfortable saying, you know what, Kaleb Eleby, we want you to be our quarterback to either, we want you to be part of this program. We want you to be a leader of this team eventually or even this year. Why should they put the trust in you?
I would have to say they're getting somebody that loves to win and
Mm-hmm.
someone that loves others. When you love to win and you love others, I feel like that's a great combo to have as a professional athlete.
Mm-hmm. And your leadership is obviously well documented. We know you are a believer. We know that you're vocal about that. We know you're also a leader as you talk about developing throughout your career. What makes you a person that feels like you can go out there right now as a rookie and help lead a locker room while still obviously developing, taking time in that aspect too, but be a leader in about 6, 7 months from now, you could be in a locker room leading a bunch of pros that's been in the league already for a while.
It goes back to it goes back to knowing when to follow. It
Mm.
goes back to knowing when to follow. And you know, I'm like as I mentioned, I'm comfortable with myself. I believe in myself. And with that, knowing how to follow and get behind people, the right people,
Mm-hmm.
is only going to enhance me in my game and my leadership ability that much more.
In terms of the on the field stuff you're going to bring to a team, what would you say for that? What can people expect from you to bring to the team from day one? What do you bring to an NFL team on the field?
Heart, heart. I love the game. I love the game of football, and I respect it. And when you respect something, when you respect the game, you do everything you can for the game. And I feel like that's who I am. I'm always trying to find ways to get better. I'm always trying to be better than I was yesterday. I'm always trying to make my teammates better.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always trying to go out there and put the team in position to win.
Is there a comparison for yourself, or maybe even not even a comparison, but maybe a couple different guys that you go out there and you watch film on, guys that you can, in a way, take pieces from their game and put into yours? If so, who are some of those guys?
I like watching Drew Brees.
Mm-hmm.
I like watching Dak. I think Dak Prescott is pretty good. Obviously, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, those guys. Um, but Aaron Rodgers, you know, Drew Brees, and is definitely one of the tops.
If you could pick one player to throw to in the NFL that's today playing, or maybe they're not even playing right now, but they haven't officially retired yet or something like that, who would be the one player you would most want to go throw a pass to?
Hmm. Probably OBJ.
If that happened to happen, obviously there's many different teams, many different ways that could go. If that did happen to happen, though, what would your reaction be to that?
I'd probably dance. Just because I feel like OBJ is a silly guy. He's a funny guy. It'd be a moment to celebrate for sure.
I know all guys want to build a legacy for themselves. So when you do end up walking away from this game someday, what do you want to be remembered for what you achieved both on and off the field?
I want people to remember me as someone who was honest, someone who loved the game, someone that made others around him better, and someone that won.
Mm-hmm. I know you're also a believer, and we've gotten into that throughout this interview, but I want to wrap kind of discussing that a little bit more. So where would you say out of this entire long journey that's got you to this point, where's the biggest moment that you've seen God show up in your life?
Ooh, that's a great question. And I would have to say all the time, man, that's a good question. I would have to say at my highs and my lows.
Mm-hmm.
At my highs and my lows. I've experienced some highs throughout my career and I've experienced some lows. And the man above has been with me every step of the way.
As a believer, and any believer out there that has kind of had a long-term relationship with God, it's not always easy though to trust God when you have the lows, especially. The high is always easy. It's always easy to trust God, thank Him, but the lows are challenging at times, especially early on in your faith. So, how'd you learn to still trust God even when times were hard?
You got to practice faith, and you have to understand and look back at your life. When you sit back and think about it, and you think about some of the things that you had once prayed for, you'd be surprised how many things you had.
Mm-hmm. I know the verse that stands out to you the most, I'm sure it's your favorite as well, is Hebrews 11:1. You have that in your bios. It says, now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. Why is that the verse that stands out the most to you? And why is that the verse you decided to have in your bio?
As you mentioned, faith. You know, without having faith, if the foundation isn't solid, then you don't have anything.
Mm-hmm.
And there's going to be bumps along the road. There's going to be highs. There's going to be lows. And the one thing that stayed, as I mentioned before, was the man above. Mm-hmm. And without a strong, solid foundation, everything else is irrelevant.
Well, my final thing for you, if you look at your entire NFL career, what's the 3 biggest goals that you have set for your career?
I want to win a Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
I want to set a record, an NFL record. And I want to play for a very long time.
Absolutely, man. Well, best of luck. I'm excited to see what God's got next for you, man. Best of luck for the entire rest of the process, getting into the draft. I can't wait to see what God's got next for you in terms of team-wise. I appreciate you coming on today again, man.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure.
Of course, man. You're always welcome on. Anytime you want to come on, just let me know. I always got you, man.
Yes, sir. We'll be in touch.
All right, for sure, man. God bless you, man.
God bless.